very grateful for Zoom for sure. You need to take a breath and just kind of settle in a bit. It's been a beautiful morning with you all. I'm very glad we get to do this kind of from afar. Lately, I've been deepening kind of into a lot of our different metaphysical teachers and metaphysical wisdom throughout history. And last time I spoke, I shared our purpose statement from the chapel. And this time I want to talk a little bit about our principles, our declaration of principles. And we posted a graphic of those principles on the Facebook page this morning. So if you're not following us there or haven't seen that, definitely check that out. And I know we read them earlier in service today too. I just want to read them one more time and just really encourage us to really meditate and think on these for just a moment. We believe in the divine consciousness of God, the spirit of everlasting goodness, and the oneness of all life. We believe in the continuity of life in all dimensions of expression. We believe in communication between the planes of expression. We believe that soul growth and development are the purpose of life. We believe that dedicated service is the way of life. We believe that each individual is responsible for his or her progression here and hereafter. We believe that Christ consciousness is the mediator between God and humanity. We believe that the universal laws represent a science of life and therefore a perfect method for spiritual progression. Those are our declaration of principles. And I want to focus in specifically on two of them. One is we believe that dedicated service is the way of life. And we believe that each individual is responsible for their progression here and hereafter. Dedicated service. What is dedicated service? We are in a world where so much is going on every day. So much in the news. We've seen the earthquakes and the fires and things going on globally and civil unrest and violence happening all around us. So what do we do as metaphysical practitioners, as metaphysicians? How do we respond to this, both for ourselves and for the people around us? How do we actively attend to who we are, being people who are responsible for our own growth and progression in this lifetime, and also make sure that as part of that, an outgrowth of that, an outpouring of that, of sharing our love and light with the world, is making sure we're directing that at the systems and the things around us that are not reflecting currently who we are as uniquely equal and divine people across all spectrums of race, color, sex, religion, all of that. How do we respond as people who are committed to deeply connecting with who we are at soul level and making sure that that aspect of who we are is allowed to grow and flourish in our world today, knowing that a natural byproduct of that will be that we are impacting positively the world around us and impacting those areas of our world that don't yet mirror what our world could be or what it should be when it's fully imbued with divine love in every aspect of our society and culture. How do we approach that? How do we honor our very real physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs as human beings and as communities of people and cultures of people around our world? How do we, as one author put it, how do we walk the mystical path with practical feet in the world around us? I've been reading a book by Howard Thurman called Jesus and the Disinherited. For those of you who aren't familiar with Howard Thurman, he was an American author. He was born in 1899, died in 1981. He was an American author, philosopher, theologian, mystic, educator, and civil rights leader. And one of his bios reads that as a prominent religious figure, he played a leading role in many of the social justice movements and organizations of the 20th century. His theology of radical nonviolence influenced and shaped a generation of civil rights activists, and he was a key mentor to leaders within the civil rights movement, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So as one of our mystic forefathers, I've been reading more of his work this month, and I want to share a little bit of an excerpt from his book of meditations. Before we do that, I want to define a word for you because I had to look it up because I'm not a farmer. And the word, and it's a word we use in our common vernacular too, I think, but a little bit of in an older way. Anyway, the word is fallow. Who knows what the word fallow means? Fallow. Probably a lot more of you than I did, right? But fallow means dormant or inactive. But it goes back to farming, and it means that land that's usually cultivated, that's allowed to lie idle during the growing season. So if you've got fallow ground or fallow soil, it means the soil has been left unplanted for a period of time. In other words, it's land that has been left to rest and to regenerate. GardeningKnowHow.com says, a field or several fields are sometimes taken out of crop rotation for a specific period of time, usually 1 to 5 years, depending on the crop. This has happened for many centuries in many different agricultural communities. But as the agriculture industry boomed, crop fields started to get bigger and new equipment and tools and chemicals were available to farmers. So a lot of crop producers abandoned the practice of soil fallowing. It became a controversial subject in some circles because a field left unplanted does not turn a profit. But a lot of new studies have shed a lot of light on the benefits of fallowing crop fields and gardens. But that key piece, a field left unplanted does not turn a profit, reminds me of a lot of the push in our society, especially in the US and the Western world, that we have to always be pushing and going and turning a profit in some way, when there's very necessary and real requirements for us to rest and to be left unplanted for a season where we've already worked as much as we can work. And it's time to just allow the soil to rest and rejuvenate, for the nutrients to be reinvigorated in the soil, right? So with kind of that in mind, I'm going to read this excerpt from Howard Thurman's Book of Meditations. It says, there is a fallow time for the spirit when the soil is barren because of sheer exhaustion. It may come unannounced like an overnight visitor passing through. It may be sudden as a sharp turn in on an unfamiliar road. It may come at the end of a long period of strenuous effort in handling some slippery in and out temptation that fails to follow a pattern. It may result from the plateau of tragedy that quietly wore away the growing edge of alertness until nothing left was but the exhausted roots of aliveness. The general climate of social unrest, of national and international turmoil, the falling of kingdoms, the constant muted suffering of hungry men and starving women and children on the other side of the oceans, all these things may so paralyze normal responses to life that a blight settles over the spirit, leaving all the fields of interest withered and parched. It is quite possible that spreading oneself so thin, with too much going on to and fro, has yielded a fever of activity that saps all energy, even from one's surplus, and we must stop for the quiet replenishing of an empty cupboard. Perhaps too much anxiety, a too hard trying, a searching strain to do by oneself what can never be done that way, has made one's spirit seem like a water tap whose washer is worn out from too much pressure. But withal, there may be the simplest possible explanation, the rhythmic ebb and flow of one's powers. Simply this and nothing more. Whatever may be the reasons, one has to deal with this fact. Then resolutely dig out the dead roots, clear the ground, but don't forget to make a humus pit against the time when some young or feeble plants will need stimulation from past flowerings in your garden. Work out new designs by dreaming daring dreams and great and creative planning. The time is not wasted. The time of fallowness is a time of rest and restoration, of ailing up and replenishing. It is the moment when the meaning of all things can be searched out, tracked down, and made to yield the secret of living. Thank God for the fallow time. That's the end of his meditation there. Thank God for the fallow time. So as I reflect on that, for me and for us today, for our community today, if anyone is going through a fallow time or a fallow time in their community, what does this mean for us today, potentially? The heart of what I'm seeing here is that there's also a time for us to be hermits, to hermit into that time of reflection and planting those seeds and seeing the new vision that's coming through, those dreaming of beautiful, creative, daring dreams. Fallow time might be the time for that, where we also go deep inside ourselves and say, is my below reflecting my above? We know that as above, so below. So if I feel like there's a disconnect there, what am I here to learn about that right now? Am I giving myself that time and space to really reflect on that? We may have come recently out of a time when so many things seem to be kind of coming at us and serving as obstacles to our path forward. Maybe it's time to rest and go inward and to nourish the soul that feeds everything that we're doing. Because even leaders, even powerful visionaries, everybody around the world needs this time of rest and rejuvenation. And those who are wise enough to understand know that this is a beautiful, powerful, perfect, and necessary cycle of our life and growth as we lead ourselves, as we progress here and hereafter, as we help others do the same, as we engage in community from a space of equity and acknowledgement of the divinity in each person in our lives. As we grow our relationships, this time of rest and rejuvenation and time apart from the production that we seem to be pushed to all the time in our world is necessary to the healthy relationships in our lives, for nurturing those relationships, because we have relationship with ourselves as much as we have relationship with the people around us. And as we recognize these cycles in our life, some of them which may include this time of fallowness, we understand that that honoring of this cycle in our life is what leads to this brilliant next level of next learning and exploration and being and sharing and allowing our gifts to pour out into the people and the lives around us, allowing us to plant the crops we're here to plant so that we can see them grow and rise up and benefit communities and societies of people here and hereafter. So when we look at these times of rest and restoration, part of it for me has been learning to understand that this is a part of the diet of my life that I need. I don't have to produce all the time. I don't have to go, go, go. I don't have to do anything. It's all a choice. I am responsible for my progression. However, when I recognize that this rest is a vital aspect of my cycles of life and give it the honor and attention it deserves, just as much as I give my cycles of action and of outpouring and sharing and speaking truth into the world and meeting the needs of our day, I will understand that this is the balanced diet that I need, the rest and the going out. We can't rest always because we're here to do things and to interact and to make an impact and be change makers. But we also can't be going out all the time because we need the rest in order to fuel that action. Honoring the cycle that's required of us as human beings and people in this lifetime. This rest and this cycle itself is the very thing that puts into place that spoke, that wheel on our chariot, that very necessary wheel that makes up our ability to move forward as we're called to move forward. During these times, there's also a temptation, a fear sometimes of people judging us for resting. Well, you have to be on the move. You have to do this. Why do you have time to rest? Well, because it's part of our cycle. It's part of who we are. We are here to rest and to work and to play and to be and to love. It is all part of why we're here. So I have to take responsibility for my own path and my own cycles and my own seasons, being aware of where I am, regardless of what other people might try to put on top of me and tell me where I am. It's my responsibility to rest and to be and to love in all the ways that I'm called to love. And knowing that this very act of finding this balance between rest and action, that makes up this beautiful synthesis of powerful life for the greatest good of all and harm to none. This acknowledgement, I feel, has the power to change everything, to change systems, to tear down the towers, to rebuild our new life in ways that are supportive for all people as we nourish ourselves and seek to nourish others and share all of who we have as people who are in service to each other, to community, and to our society. So my question to us today is, and this is really an individual question, is what cycle are you in today? What cycle are you in right now? What season are you in right now? Are you in that time where you're giving your fertile soils time to rest and not have to be planted and grow anything right now, knowing that this is required for the nourishment of your soul, for the nourishment of your life, so that when you do produce those plants and produce those crops and produce that action and your gifts to give to the world, they are the most nourished, balanced, hydrated, beautiful crops and gifts you can give to the world? Or is this a time where you are growing and giving out and speaking and sharing? Now, once you acknowledge where you are, once I acknowledge where I am, I can ask if there's any part of me that's resisting where I am right now. And if there is, how can I love it, love it, love it, and allow it to be transmuted because I'm accepting it and acknowledging exactly where I am today in service to my communities and in service to myself in this lifetime as we share our love and light with the world. Because that love has the power, that acceptance through the love has the power to shift my experience of any resistance I am with whatever cycle I'm in right now. And that's something that I am working to deepen into today. I hope there's something in here that helps you deepen into that today as well. Blessings.